Good evening, and welcome to the 2024 Student Government Executive Alliance debate. My name is Lucero Ponce, and I am the editor-in-chief of the Daily Texan. I'll be moderating today's debate with the help of my associate editor, Justin, who will be keeping time, and Tanya, who will be taking notes. Justin will hold up yellow cards labeled 30 seconds and 15 seconds, and he will also hold up a red card to indicate when you've run out of time. This debate serves to give the UT community a look into the candidates' platforms, beliefs, and priorities. And it gives our campus population the chance to ask the questions they want to know the answers to live and with an immediate response. To start, the university-wide representative candidates will introduce themselves and present their platforms. After that, executive alliances will come on stage and provide an opening statement. Then we'll begin the executive alliance general debate, which will be split into two parts with a 5-minute intermission at 7 p.m. At 7:30, we'll begin allowing in-person audience questions, and we'll also ask submitted questions. At the end of the debate, each executive alliance will provide a closing statement. At this time, I'd like to invite the candidates running to be university-wide representatives to the stage to present their platforms. Yes, so can you line up in the order of how you filed? So it'll be Anthony first, then Mateo, then Haida, Carla, Nivi, Isabella, and Anna.
I think this might be too tall for me. What do I middle? Hi, my name is Anthony Nguyen. I'm running for university-wide representative. I'm currently a first-year representative that's in the Financial Affairs Committee and the Legislative Policy Committee. This is an opportunity for me to share my platform. And the most important thing to me that I'm working on right now with a couple of other representatives is just the fact that there should be more non-emergency ways for people to take care of their mental health here on campus. I know that there's a lot of resources here on campus, but a lot of them rely on the 9 to 5. And after that 9 to 5, a lot of what people rely on is the emergency hotlines. And after that, another thing that I'm working on is actually with one of the other representatives here, and that's working on a more transparent tuition plan that allows us to see where money's going. And the last thing I'm working on is making a reduced or lower cost Eco-to-Go program so that people are able to have more food accessibility here. And really, that's it for now. I look forward to working with everyone here, and I'm gonna try and work hard as I can. And honestly, if I go down, I wanna go down in history. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mateo Hayek, and I am a candidate for university-wide rep. So growing up as a third culture kid in Houston, I always struggled to find a place within a group. As a kid, I believed it to be a disadvantage because I never truly felt like I belonged anywhere. And while in formative years, this may have been challenging, as I grew up, I realized that it was more of a blessing than a curse. I realized that I could relate to so many different people. I could be an ear for anyone around me, and I believe that I could relate to so many people. So I believe that at the University of Texas, we have so many different people of so many different backgrounds. I think that as a person of so many different, with the ability to relate to so many different people, I am a great person for anyone to talk to in case they have any issues with the university. I really want to. Okay, my bad.
Hey everyone, my name is Haida, a second-year Gov major running to be y'all's university-wide representative. I understand just how hard it is to have your voice be heard, which is why I believe we can work together to enact positive change on campus. I've already worked this year with various students and stakeholders as a liberal arts representative within student government and as policy coordinator for the Liberal Arts Council. With these positions, I've demonstrated my passion for improving UT by working to fix the class registration system and improving textbook affordability. As your university-wide representative, I will make sure to increase our mental health resources, improve our academic policies, make campus more affordable, and enhance accessibility. Together, we can help UT reach new heights. So vote Haida as your university-wide representative. Thank you.
I'm going to take this out. I'm Carla Lujan, and I'm running for university-wide representative. Returning to student government would be an honor and a blessing. I will promote an inclusive campus that sees to the security and the representation of its students. I will continue to work on my initiative that I've been passionate about since 2022, reforming the dining hall's Eco-to-Go program. Another goal I'd like to work towards is re-implementing a ceremony for December graduates. Any change, any initiative, big or small, my own or another representative's, is important, and I'm willing to help in any way that I can. We may not know what the future may bring, but I'm telling you that now I want to help SGA, and I want to help the students. To me, being a representative means that you will listen to, empathize with, and care for the people that you are representing. This is more than a title. This is more than a reputation. This is a dedication to those that you care for. And I care for UT. I care for the students. I care for student government, always have, always will. My name is Carla Lujan, and I'm running for university-wide representative. Thank you.
Hey y'all, my name is Nidhi and I am a second-year psychology major. I served as a COLA rep in the 117th Assembly as a student affairs chair for the Assembly Board. And I really loved my time in SG. I think I've gotten the opportunity to work on a lot of different initiatives. I've been able to dabble with trying to eliminate credit claiming fees. I have been able to, I just finished writing a resolution opposing the demolition of the social work building that they're currently going to tear down for a new football facility. And I have also currently am working on some accommodation stuff to try and streamline that process. The reason I want to step out and expand into U-Wide is because I was the co-chair for the now non-existent DEI caucus, and that really showed me the wealth of opportunities that there are to improve the student experience. And I think with the current, political climate and SB 17 guidelines that have been passed down, I would like to continue working with students to make sure that our voices are still heard in a way that we want. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Bella Feistauer and I am running for U-Wide representative. As a COLA representative, I was honored to be offered co-leadership of the now obsolete Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Caucus. Having followed SB 17 throughout its passage and implementation, I have experienced deep disappointment with our lawmakers and the UT administration. While those of us in SGOs face new limitations under SB 17, I will do everything in my power to uplift student organizations working to fill the gaps left by banned DEI practices. Additionally, since coming to the University of Texas, I have had the opportunity to participate in civic engagement, and I truly understand its transformative power in shaping policies, mobilizing voter turnout, and affecting change. UT students have a voice and should feel comfortable and confident in using it. Ahead of this election year, I hope to act as an agent for mobilization and civic engagement on campus so that UT students can be heard. The University of Texas is constantly changing, and your vote decides whether those changes will be positive. Vote Bella for U-Wide for a better UT on and off campus. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Victoria Lavelle, and I'm running to be one of your university-wide representatives in next year's assembly. I'm currently a third-year computational engineering major, and I had the privilege of serving as an elected engineering representative in this past year's assembly, but I'm hoping to shift my focus to more university-wide issues in this coming year, namely safety. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've been worried about how I'm getting home after a long night of studying, or being unsure if it was safe to leave my apartment after receiving an outdated incident notification. I want to cut down on that incident notification time so that we know we're receiving accurate and up-to-date information. I also want to expand on our pre-existing safety infrastructure, namely our SureWalk program and our Lyft credit program, so that they can expand to larger areas nearby campus, and I want to expand the number of ways that you can call for help on campus. So I'd appreciate your help in tackling these initiatives through your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of the university-wide candidates. Now, I'd like to welcome the executive alliances to the stage to present their platforms and introduce their alliance. Each alliance will have 2 minutes collectively, also proceeding in the order in which they filed.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for being here tonight. Jonathan and I are honored to be running here. It's no secret that for far too long, students have felt disconnected from student government. While student government has been doing a great job at this, Jonathan and I are here running to take this to the next level. Senate Bill 17, after it was passed, created unfair gaps on our campus. And many of you here sitting today and watching on your screen have come to us and told us your story of how that has affected you. We're here to ensure we restructure resources to ensure you are taken care of and secure in your place in this university.
Another of our main concerns are addressing the gaps that have always existed on campus. For example, food insecurity and expensive class and resources. Our goal is to, one, use our resources as student government and our advocacy power as president and vice president to help address these issues, but also connect students so that they can help each other address these issues.
Lastly, we're here to bridge the gap between student government and UT. And why are we qualified to be speaking here today? Well, with my experience with advocacy and campaign and community organizing at the Texas Capitol, and Jonathan's extensive experience in student government, we formed the perfect pair to take care of this today. That's why you're voting Nimbala Wilson, because we solve real problems for real students. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Has it not been running this entire time? Okay. Well, do you guys want to know a fun fact? Student government has been allocating about $45,000 to its own members. That's nearly 40% of its own budget, where we believe that number is too high, where the budget and the funds given to student government should be directed towards the students. Our pledge, this is great, you know. I apologize for that. Our pledge is simple, is that we want to not accept any of the funds that are given to us, to create a new merit-based scholarship that is acceptable to all students, where the money should be given to the students. And that is what our platform is, to rebuild student government, to focus on our students here at UT. And we will work with the Dean of Students, Student Government Assembly, and everyone else that's affected by the budget to create a new budget that is focused towards students here. And I kind of messed this up already, but a little fun story is when we were going to research this is that, the current budget is just, I apologize, I'm just kind of thrown off. Andy, can you please continue?
Well, we just wanted to say that the current budget allocates over $100,000 to student government, and we feel that 40% of that budget going to its leaders is unacceptable. We also feel that $45,000, just as a raw number, is a lot, and that should be going towards students. That's why our platform is primarily concerned with putting that money back towards the students and putting it back towards scholarships. Thank you.
We are Grace Kelly and Elle Grinnell, and we are running to unite the student body of the University of Texas at Austin. Our vision is to cultivate a vibrant campus where every individual's voice is not just heard but celebrated, where every perspective is not just acknowledged but valued, and where every student feels an unwavering sense of belonging. By fostering collaboration, embracing inclusivity, and championing diversity, we aspire to build a university community that not only respects our differences, but actively leverages them to achieve common goals. Our commitment extends beyond academic success. We are dedicated to prioritizing the mental and emotional well-being of every student. Through collaboration with counseling services, advocating for increased resources, and working towards destigmatization, we aim to create an environment that recognizes and supports the holistic needs of every Longhorn.
We strive to ensure that every student every student can focus on their academic pursuits without the burden of food insecurity. As a school with the slogan, "What starts here changes the world," it is imperative that we enhance our efforts to better prepare students to go out and do just that. Imagine a campus that mirrors the strength of our unity and vibrancy of our diversity. Picture a future where every student not only thrives, but actively contributes to the rich tapestry of the UT Austin experience. Your vote for unity is a vote for inclusivity, a vote for a more connected Longhorn family. Together, let's transform UT Austin into a place where every student feels not only academically fulfilled, but truly at home. Unleashing the boundless potential within our collective community. A vote for unity is a vote for Grace and Elle. Unite together. Thank you.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves and your campaigns. At this point, we'll move into the general debate, which will include questions directed towards all executive alliances. Each alliance may choose whether or not they wish to respond to a question, and if your alliance does, each team will have 1 minute to do so. Within that time period, you may each speak, or only one candidate may choose to, but collectively, your time will conclude after 1 minute. If you would like to respond, please raise your green card. Okay, just raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that we see your hand raised. If another executive alliance is mentioned by name, they will be given time for a 30-second rebuttal. This will continue until our intermission at 7 p.m. Are there any questions? Okay. So we're moving into the questions. Student government has over a century of history on this campus, having taken part in many initiatives and advocacy campaigns, and sometimes ignoring others. At what point, even disbanding for 5 years to avoid all issues? What is the purpose and responsibility of the modern student government in shaping campus culture and advocating for student interests?
The responsibility of student government is pretty simple. First and foremost, it's here to bridge the gap between the administration and what students really want. We are here to be student leaders and student representatives, and what that means is asking students, what do you care about? And then subsequently advocating for those changes to be created on campus. An example of this is after Senate Bill 17 was passed, obviously there have been many gaps on campus created, and so we are prioritizing making sure that all students feel heard and the change that they want to see is passed.
also think that the role of student government is just to help people. So just identifying problems and solving them for students. If a student is not eating, if a student is not sleeping, to do our best to address that need.
We believe that the role of student government is to advocate for all students, and that means advocating for all students equally. But we do feel that student government in the University of Texas at Austin at large has relatively failed to do that. Just one stat that's kind of shocking is there's a foundation called FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, and it ranks UT Austin in the bottom 30 universities that are ranked at about 300 for free speech. We think that UT, and basically any institution that kind of falls under it, has kind of failed to foster a better campus environment, for really anything, free expression, diversity of thought, and ideology. We believe that the role of student government should be to foster these discussions and put everybody essentially on an equal playing field. We believe that student government should be advocating for all students, for free expression, and for a safer and freer UT.
Similarly to what they were discussing, we believe that the primary being of the Executive Alliance specifically, as well as the entire essence of student government, is to unite together all of communities. And we really have recognized that within all of our policy platforms, emphasizing the necessity of bridging these gaps between communicative establishments between the entire student body and the student government. Within our policies, you would see that we've embedded these means of communication, whether that be through monthly town halls or open Google Forms for everyone to vocalize how we could best support all communities. And I think that that open form of communication is necessary for us understanding and supporting all of these communities.
Many executive alliances come from a desire to improve their community, and most have begun to do that before their name arrives on the ballot. How has your executive alliance been built off of your prior service to the broader UT and Austin community?
Well, for me specifically, a lot of the platform points that we put into the policies that we're working on a lot of them are based off initiatives that I've already been passionate about as a member of Assembly. So right now I am business representative for Student Government Assembly, or one of them. And so like one of our issues was addressing resources and such as food insecurity. And so like a week ago I passed my first food insecurity legislation. And then a lot of the other issues that we're trying to face are just ones that have been addressed in Assembly, such as lack of class resources. That was just something that the architecture representative brought up during one of our recesses. But yeah, it's just basically listening to the needs that are being expressed within student government.
100%. And I've been working, and last year, this time, I was working against the passage of SB 17 and other anti-DI bills in the Capitol.
Sorry. I would say specifically for myself, I am a big person of bringing people together. Most recently, I just got reelected for MPHC president, and within that, I work to bring people together through not only our council, but as well as other councils. And I think our alliance is broadly based off of that. I mean, within student government, plan is to bring the student body together.
I think in addition to both of our community outreach that we've both been involved in many leadership experiences, myself, I have a passion for mental health. I have an organization called Cope with Hope, where I've committed the past 7 years to mental health research, getting involved actually with the United States Mental Health Roundtable, being informed on mental health education platforms. And so I feel like that I could bring that knowledge from those departments and things in within my organization, and leading within Plan 2 Pre-Med as president, and all of those educational platforms to bridge the communities between ourselves and within the rest of the student body to educate them on these mental health topics, as well as inclusivity.
Man, that was a horrible start. I really apologize about that, but As a UT student, I believe that the best thing we can do here at UT is just get as much experience as we possibly can, where I've done my best to do that, where I've been to multiple, and I do my best to go to like almost every organization here on campus, where I've been to College Republicans, University Democrats, Students for Democrat Society, and I've always just loved listening to what other people have to say and their own experiences, so then I can understand how people on this campus feel and what issues actually they care about.
So the minute I stepped forth on this campus, I was a freshman not really knowing what to do, but I did know I wanted to get involved. And a great way for me to do that was in my residence hall. I was able to join our council where we were able to do many advocacy projects, many programming events, and I was able to eventually take that campus-wide. Currently, I'm a resident assistant, and I've been basically doing more of the same, advocating for my residents, and basically all throughout. That's all.
The motivation for many that join student government is said to be service for their community and our campus, and this is seen in a variety of agencies and offices in the legislative organization. There are many ways to enact change at a variety of levels in SG. Why is your executive alliance uniquely suited to serve in this office versus other offices and positions in SG?
Jonathan and I have a very complementary skill set. So I've done a lot of work in our community and working to maximize school funding for public schools and in general working in the education public policy space, whereas Jonathan has done a lot of work within student government. Our work working in policy and making sure we advocate for community needs and get stuff done is highly complementary. Furthermore, just organizational skills from running my own business and startup has made it so we are always on track.
Basically everything she just said. I think my internal knowledge as both a former member of student government executive branch and a student government assembly leader, and then her knowledge of just like outside advocacy, I think that makes us the perfect team. Also just our personalities work well together, I would say.
I think kind of our origin story as an executive alliance goes to prove this or answer this question. We are the true embodiment of our slogan, Unite Together. It was kind of just a mutual connection that I got set up with her, and it was immediately a connection in the sense to where we recognized our passion for building or bridging these communities of UT and uniting together. I would say that within Uniting Together, we've recognized that although we don't have past experience at UT within student government, I have led student government in high school, so I can carry with me that resource and knowledge, but I think we have continuously, our strength within our alliance is the fact that we're super resourceful, meeting with people within student government, being aware of all of the policies and breakdown of how those rules and things abide, but also reaching out to lawyers and acknowledging how our policies must abide by the law. And so, especially with SB 17, ensuring that everything aligns with the current laws of Texas. So I think, yeah, our passion and our resources are definitely our strengths.
Well, Andy and I both have legislative experience where we were here at the Capitol during the 88th legislative session where we actually worked on like the actual budget of Texas when that was actually being finalized, where I stayed up till 3 a.m. looking at laws and just what things should be focused on, where that was just a very, not the most fun night you could possibly imagine, but we believe that the budget needs to be rebuilt and needs to be more focused here at the students at UT, where, like I was saying at the start, that $45,000 is directed to its own members, where we believe that it could be directed to something better. And we're always open to actually just listen to what projects need to be focused on. But honestly, the only times I've ever interacted with student government and with many of my friends is just during this election time, where I would love to create that communication and just learn what's actually going on. But we believe that there needs to be more information and be a little bit more, I guess, open to what's actually being funded here.
Teamwork is hard in any setting, but in a position with such grueling hours and the mandate for constant communication and cooperation, it's a necessity. what's your team's greatest weakness in working together as an alliance?
Well, something that many of you know, so when it comes to what might be our greatest weakness, though we do see it as an asset, is that we don't really have that much experience when it comes to student government. We've never been elected to any student government positions nor served in any agencies. Now, we do acknowledge that, yes, when we become presumably president and vice president, we would need to surround ourselves with more knowledgeable people when it comes to student government. But like Austin was talking about, we do have legislative experience. We do have experience running student organizations. We have a drive and commitment to this student government and actually fixing the problems that we see in it.
Just to build off at what Andy said is that we truly do care about the students here at UT. And, you know, it might be light-minded thinking, but our goals here are to just focus here at the students of UT and want to make sure that everyone here is welcomed. Thank you.
As said before, I would say our greatest weakness is not coming from a student government background. But with that being said, as we've said, we're also resourceful. So yes, that's our greatest weakness, but at the same time, it's a strength because we can pull from different areas and talk to different people.
I think also building off of that, we are just two people, and within that, we're able to, like we said, bridge our different backgrounds and communities and things, and so we're able to turn that weakness into a strength by acknowledging that, yes, we're not part of student government currently, but we're able to engage in so much outreach and engage in so much more knowledge. We're not limited to just the student government background knowledge, but we're able to expand upon that within our different experiences at UT so far.
I would say if we had a weakness, it would be we have a lot of big ideas, and we are very strong-headed people. And so I would say that if we had a weakness, me and Ramya, it would be that we have to take our time with figuring out what we want to do, what we want to prioritize, and, you know, it's not a weakness if we're able to overcome it. So I would say that like we're both huge personalities, and it's really hard to fit that all into one campaign, but I think we're doing a pretty good job of it.
How do you plan to communicate with and gather feedback from the student body and ensure accountability for your actions and decisions? Will you put mechanisms in place for students to evaluate your administration's performance, and if so, what might those mechanisms be?
So in our 13 or 16-page policy paper, you'll have to tell me how long it is exactly, we have, I believe, on page 9 or 10, outlined our feedback loop. So one of our main priorities for Unity is ensuring that student government and students feel connected on campus. And people relate to people. And so Instagram is one of the main channels in which we are planning to connect them. And so we've already started doing this with our campaign, where we ask students on campus, what do you want to change about campus for our campaign, and added their issues to our policy papers. And if elected, Jonathan and I will be posting on both our SG Instagram, but also our personal Instagrams weekly about here's what we did this week related to SG updates, what would you like to change about campus? And we've seen that students love connecting to us. And so it's both an accountability mechanism and a connection mechanism. We plan to follow every single UT student who has an Instagram.
And then also more opportunities for people to connect in person.
So when it comes to the accessibility of student government, this is something we focus on. Our second platform point is we do want there to be more transparency in student government, what is actually going on, especially for us, we're concerned with the budget, but this just kind of goes with the executive alliance in general. We want to see the budget uploaded to the website, previous budgets uploaded to the website, and we also want to do an audit of agencies and basically any student government institution to know exactly where that money is going. But specifically to the question, we want to upload, like the other alliance said, we want to upload every appearance, everything that Austin would presumably sign. Basically, anything we do as an executive alliance would be on Instagram. It would be uploaded. And every single thing we do, we want the students there, and we want to hear their voices. We want to have those discussions in basically any single policy issue that comes to the table.
As Grace briefly mentioned before, within our Cultivating Equality policy, we plan to have town halls as well as newsletters and forums where we can collect information as well as things that the students brought up or concerns, issues, any of that, so that we can read them directly. Transparency is obviously a big thing within that, and within the town hall meetings, we'd be able to hear everyone's voices and concerns who come and attend them.
In addition to those forums and town halls, it would be ensuring that those are accessible to everyone and that everyone is aware of those things. So advocating for that within our student government sources and platforms is incredibly important, and having those forms available at all times of the day, and ensuring that people within our agencies and ourselves are continuously checking up and regulating the responses of those forms to ensure that all voices are heard and no voices go under the table, but ensuring that everyone gets a response when appropriate.
On the ballot this year, none of the candidates here running for president of student government have actually ever been in the legislative organization. For the presidential candidates to address specifically, how will you ensure this doesn't hinder your ability to perform your duties or even use this to your advantage?
Well, our platform is to take away our stipend, where we promise to not accept it. And we want to give it back to the students here at UT and make sure that everyone knows what we are spending on. Because we want everyone to know what is happening. Because I can tell you, Andy and I, we were trying to figure out what the current budget is. And yeah, that was a very fun night of us just basically bending backwards, just trying to figure out what is going on. And we were able to find something, but we were able to figure out the specifics of where every little nook and cranny is going into, where we can hopefully maybe create more discussion with the students here at UT.
Yeah, just to add on to that, so transparency is a big part of our platform, but I do want to also talk about our experience. We both worked in the legislature. We both worked in numerous student orgs. We kind of have a feel for how these kinds of institutions function, and we see it as probably one of our greatest strengths that we're not from those institutions of student government. And we can bring fresh ideas, we can kind of spice things up, and we can basically make a new and better student government.
I think my role not within the legislative branch doesn't mean that I'm not a leader. If anything, I've aiming to engage in that community because I strive to also engage as a leader within that community this year. But I also recognize that within my time at UT these past 3 years, I've engaged as a leader within all organizations that I've been a part of and trying to pave the way for others to do the same. Within Plan to Pre-Med specifically, I entered because I was nominated on behalf of the Plan to Mental Health Alliance to lead within that. So I was nominated, have strived to engage in those communities, and through that I actually learned that I'm not pre-med anymore and that I have a passion for public policy and engaging in those means. And so I think that I've engaged in all of these leadership opportunities as a learning experience and learning to make the way and engage in future leadership roles and helping others do the same.
I think what sets apart our alliance from every single alliance on this stage is the fact that our vice president, Jonathan Wilson, he has had a previous experience in assembly. And so what that means is from every other president does not have a vice presidential candidate who has that experience. And so Jonathan and I, together, we do bring a fresh perspective to student government because I have not had a legislative position. However, we also have the experience from student government with our combined selves. And to speak to my own leadership capabilities, I use the motto, show, don't tell. So I am CEO, founder of an edtech startup that was listed on Austin Business Journal's Innovation Under 20, Innovators Under 25. I chair Austin's Advocacy Advisory Committee, nominated by the Austin At-Large Board of Trustees president, and I am dedicated to making sure Jonathan and I bring change to our community.
Okay, for this question, we will allow a rebuttal for 30 seconds if anyone wants to take it, just because like every other alliance was implied mentioned, so whoever wants to rebuttal is welcome to. Grace, you may go first.
Sorry. I think the recognition of not having someone within student government is necessary. However, that doesn't also recognize that I don't have a student government background. I serve, not that I believe a high school service is necessary, but I was student government president of my entire student body, but I was also class president. So within that, we also served in working at UT, and so I joined forces with the Young Hearts Matter Alliance and did domestic violence awareness and prevention at the Capitol, starting in high school and continuing that into college. So not student government college, but still in the past. So.
Well, I do want to speak on behalf of Austin and myself when I say we are very dedicated to the University of Texas at Austin. We are very committed to this community, and like we don't have this legislative experience when it comes to student government, but we do have other experiences. We have our dedication, and we really think that's all we really need. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Are we allowed to?
Okay, as mentioned, each of you as an executive alliance come from different backgrounds and have a range of experiences. From your perspectives, why do you believe your executive alliance would be able to lead student government better than the other teams?
I would like to based on the previous question, or relating to the previous question, as we said before, we're kind of the only team up here with someone who has had experience, one in the executive branch and then two in the legislative branch. So I think that's one of the experiences that sets us apart. Also, Ramya's background in advocacy. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're great friends. We actually met at Camp Texas before UT, or before freshman year. And so, yeah, we really enjoy working together as well.
Well, I will just say this about our executive alliance. We think we have some big ideas, but we do think that they are feasible within the next year, which is why we have focused on only really 4 platform points when it comes to the entirety of our platform. We have some, big ideas for the budget. We kind of discussed that. We kind of want to rethink, the entire way that student government does its budget. But we also want to have kind of a more open student government, one where people of all opinions are welcome and of all ideologies. We want to see a student government where we really feel like the students at large are involved in their student government. And yeah, that's about that.
So Grace and I obviously hail from different backgrounds representing diverse communities within the student body. Despite those differences, our mutual connection and shared commitment to the student body has brought us together for this exact reason. We want to harmonize the needs of each community we represent, and we feel like we're perfect for that job. This unity of purpose not only reflects our ability to collaborate effectively, but also to represent our dedication to inclusivity and understanding.
I think even within building our campaign in the past few weeks, we've really showed that unity by having such collaborative efforts and doing it honestly very efficiently, striving to create very effective and feasible policies, while also building a campaign team that I think sticks to our beliefs and is aware of our beliefs and is able to advocate for those for us. And so having kind of a structure in place and managing all of that kind of goes to show our collaboration efforts and just our unity in itself.
As you all have shared in your opening statements some of your campaign points, while high aspirations in campaigns are admirable, the reality of an alliance's term is that you're limited to what can be accomplished within a year. How will you work to achieve your goals in this time frame, and what would you prioritize?
One of the first things Jonathan and I did when we realized that we wanted to campaign is we've actually met with previous elected executive alliances to ask, okay, what's feasible, what can be done? So we've met with Leyland, we've met with previous executive board members like Christian Mira. We have chatted with Helen Getachew, previous president, and so we've met with numerous leaders on campus to understand what is truly feasible before actually embarking upon our policy journey. And our policy paper is very thorough. Throughout, you'll see details scattered about how we've actually ensured everything on here is feasible. So for example, for part 1, anti-DEI legislation and how we're going to restructure resources, we did legislative research. For part 2 resources, we emailed UHD to make sure our food insecurity policies are feasible. And for our unity, Jonathan has talked to Guzman, forgot her name, Michelle Guzman, to begin the process of talking with her about those policies.
I think something that we discussed within building our campaign is the necessity for not overpromising, and that goes within creating feasible policies that speak for every topic that we could feel is a priority within our campaign. And with that comes, within the feasibility and preparing for that feasibility comes contacting people who can understand what that feasibility would look like. We got in touch with DEI attorneys in Dallas, and they were able to read through our policies and ensure that not only do they align with the constraints of SB 17, but that they're also allowed on a UT scale, especially within student government. Also, in regards to that feasibility is the budget. That is a huge conversation. So within establishing that budget and breaking that down, we have come to terms with having to ensure that we're able to accomplish those things within the entire year, and that's breaking down the priorities within our policies and things. First, establishing that the response to SB 17 is the utmost priority, and so that goes with issuing solutions within the cultivating equality policy that we have.
Well, we don't believe that creating more transparency would be an issue because every project has to be accepted and, everything's outlined at the start, so why can't we just, show it at the end, right? And just publish it on a website that we already have control on. But no, we have another idea that may be a little bit more controversial, but my vice president can attain.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily controversial. We just want to create a task force that will advise student government when it comes to the very big issue of the recent war in Israel. We want student government to be advised when it comes to that because we have many Jewish and Muslim friends and peers at this university who feel afraid to practice their religion in public. I have a really good personal friend who he feels afraid to have the Star of David on his necklace shown, publicly. So we want to create a task force for student government, and it will advise student government and tell student government the best ways that it can handle these tough issues. That doesn't only extend to the war in Israel, but that's all.
Something that a lot of you have mentioned is transparency. And one of the criticisms student government has faced in the past is a lack of transparency regarding the operations of the executive board. What level of transparency do you feel an executive alliance owes to the student body, and how will you strive to achieve that?
I think I recognize that lack of transparency and governance amidst building our campaign. In striving to establish our policies, we were trying to attain the policies that are currently enacted right now, and that was not very accessible, having to contact people in student government in order for them to acknowledge or make me aware of the current policies. So I think that acknowledgement came within building our policies because I would have hated to have established a policy that was already enacted. So in the midst of trying to educate ourselves, we saw that, and I think that is also kind of why we're trying to bridge that gap. Creating flawless communication between the student body and student government by having that transparency be of the utmost priority, and whether that be through the forums and town halls that we've discussed, but also embracing our platforms and educating people on social platforms and things, and having just people aware of the schedules and timelines on our website, and making just everything more accessible.
one thing I've noticed about student government in the last year, I feel like they've gotten much better at being more transparent. I think they post most of their information about the budget. I think they, what's it called? I think they've been much better than maybe administrations 2 or 3 years ago. One thing we were hoping to do is establish a more open line of communication. So similar to our similar to our running mates Grace and Elle, we did want to hold we did want to hold forums, and we did want to hold town halls, and that's part of our policy paper. So creating more opportunities for students to come in and talk to us and ask us questions about our policies, that's probably one thing that we've been hoping to do.
Yeah, to piggyback off what Jonathan was saying, we have town halls, which are weekly office hours, essentially, where anyone can come to our exec line to tell us, okay, this is what we'd like to change about student government, or give us feedback. And then we have monthly forums in our policy papers where you can check them out.
As with any legislative organization, student government is limited by financial constraints to enact change on campus. How have each of your alliances taken the budget into account when thinking about your policies and goals, and how have you reached those decisions?
A lot of what we talked about when we were coming up with our platforms were plans and backup plans. So there are a lot of things that we are able to do as student government with our budget, because the budget is fat. And then there are things that are bigger initiatives that have more to do with student government's power for advocacy. So if we want to do so like for example, one of our platform points is providing resources. So for food insecurity, part of that is advocacy, because we're trying to extend free meal plans to students, which is huge and something that student government just can't do on its own. But for things like class materials, we were thinking about it, or no, things like, one of our points were experiential learning opportunities, so paying for field trips or whatnot for students who can't afford it. So that would be more application-based, and that could be something that comes out of the student government budget.
With that, we recognize that the problem isn't with the amount of money, but more or less the education and accessibility of the current amount of money. We feel as though a big issue is knowing what amount goes to what area, more or less how much we can put into each.
Within creating our policies, we recognize that budget and kind of establish like an internal priority list of how we would obtain those like goals and solutions. And also in addition to building our policies, we recognize that the utmost priority of a lot of the solutions are that we recognize that a lot of these structures and solutions are already in place, but rather their accessibility and education on those things is the huge concern. Specifically within the CMHC, we've contributed over $1 million to funding those resources, but yet the problem is that within the usage of those resources, so it's more of how can we build like transportation and awareness of those means, and how can we help people use them.
So we've mentioned it before, we want more financial transparency. We also want to transform the UTSG budget. So now this is a great opportunity to explain what we actually mean by that. We want to take a large portion of the budget, and we have a plan outlined where we want to do almost 3/4, but obviously we'd have to work with the assembly, the dean of students, to see where that actually goes. But we want to put a majority of that budget, and we were talking about it. We were wondering what is the best allocation of all of these funds. And we decided that the best way to spend this money is to actually put it back in the hands of students. We want to create a new program of merit-based scholarships and put that student government budget to it, because we thought really hard about it, and we really don't think that a $117,000 budget is what is necessary to run student government. They could run on half that budget or even less than that. So we ultimately think we should put more of that money back in the hands of students.
We will now break for our 5-minute intermission, and then we will come back for the second portion of the debate. To resume the debate. Welcome back to the 2024 Student Government Executive Alliance debate. At this point, the same rules will apply from before, with 1 minute per Executive Alliance response and the opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal if an alliance is mentioned by name. Let's begin. According to the American College Health Association, nearly 75% of college students surveyed report moderate to serious psychological distress. With so much happening in our world and in our community, how will you work to improve mental health resources and better support students facing mental health struggles?
I love this question. I think, no, I'm just kidding. So I work, I work at the McCombs Wellness Center. If you don't know what that is, it's a mental health facility specifically for Macomb students. I think part of what we wanted to do is have our our mental health agency work on advocating for the creation of more. Because my boss's boss is kind of like the dean, one of the assistant deans of Macombs, and he's been talking about how more centers or more schools are looking at creating centers like these. And so I think that if the student body expresses that this is their wishes, then maybe it could make that process go faster. But mostly advocacy on creating more college-based mental health resources, because right now it's just spread all over, and a lot of people don't know where they can get access to those resources.
Yes, and the mental health agency would.
I was scrambling for my notes because I have that exact fact in my notes right now. So I think given my background within mental health, I also kind of have that passion for mental health because I have personal anecdotes within that. I actually have had to go through a class absence and a withdrawal from the university, and I've seen flaws within the structures through doing that. There's really a lack of personalized support, and I think amidst mental health crises, that is the utmost necessity is to have support through those processes. And so those people would be allocated to help alleviate those burdens on students amidst those processes. And then I think my favorite thing within our solutions for this mental health policy is our Canvas Resource Center. It's a pre-installed Canvas site that would be on everyone's Canvas page, and allows for an integration of both education modules through these within the university experience, but also enhances the accessibility. And then also, like, amidst these crises, no one's going to go to the website of CMHC. The Canvas page would already be pre-installed and accessible.
We want to create open discussion here at student government where we want people to just actually express what are the needs here. I mean, I'm not a mental health care professional, but I would love to hear what people actually have to say and what they think is the best rule, where we can make sure that students here know the information and just all the resources that we currently provide. And I think that would be a great way for us to start transparency.
After the passage of SB 17, many students are concerned for the state of diversity and inclusion on campus. How are you going to represent the diverse communities on campus while staying in accordance with SB 17?
Jonathan and I have researched this very thoroughly. So there are specific exceptions that SB 17 makes. So for example, student organizations can host speaker seminars related to inclusivity. That's an exception granted due to freedom of speech. And so one of our many initiatives is being able to just grant student orgs the opportunity to connect them to create their own inclusivity speaker seminars, cultural recruitment dinners. So with the passage of SB 17, cultural recruitment dinners were canceled. We plan to bring them back. Student experience forums. And basically what that would look like is creating an inclusive environment where students come to us specifically with concerns related to inclusivity.
Another huge part of it was connecting student organizations that are based on identity with their, with their alumni counterparts. So bringing them together so that alumni can kind of create their funding and students can come up with their initiatives.
So we have a goal to foster inclusivity and equitable opportunities for everyone, because doing so allows for diversity of thought. I'm so sorry, y'all. Regardless of race, gender, or sexual orientation, and we want everyone to feel like they have a seat at the table. So because of this, we would budget more money aside for student-led organizations. We've also recently heard testimonies about problem booking rooms because of SB 17, and within SB 17, that is not supposed to be an issue. Student-led organizations are not supposed to have been affected. So we would create a form for more efficient room booking because of that. Once again mentioned, we'd also have our town halls to hear all of the issues that have arisen because of it and think of possible solutions.
We also recognize the current referendum within student government of AB 7, which is currently trying to make people aware of how we could help with the MEC situation and what that could become. And so we note the connection of administrative pushback and hope to build on whatever they're trying to establish within that.
So ultimately, something we do have to recognize as a publicly funded university in the state of Texas is that we are compelled to follow the law, and that does include SB 17. So something we do need to make sure we do is we can no longer promote any DEI initiatives. We cannot really follow through with any of that kind of stuff. Now, that doesn't mean we cannot advocate for students. We have talked about how we want to advocate for all students here at UT, but ultimately we do feel it is important that executive agencies and the assembly and really everybody does follow SB 17. And, you know, there's a lot that has to go into that, but ultimately it does come down to protecting the university and protecting its staff in particular, because ultimately they are the ones who will, you know, face punishment if the student government is not in compliance with this law. So ultimately we do think we do have to, you know, follow it as it is the law.
With the recent closure of the Monarch program, designed to provide support for undocumented students, and the elimination of the Monarch Scholarship, both as a result of SB 17, how will you ensure undocumented students are supported?
I think that relates to a lot to our last answer, connecting students with alumni associations. A lot of our platform is figuring out Senate Bill 17 compliant ways to connect students to the funding that they need for their organizations. I think, a lot of students came in to Assembly and from the former MEC, like the former MEC agencies, and they were very clear about their concerns. I asked them what their concerns were, and they were like, we need money. I was like, oh, bet. And so one of the examples of how alumni have already stepped up to kind of help students student initiatives that are based on identity was the cultural graduations that got canceled, but then they were brought back because alumni decided to step up and give them the money for it. So creating more opportunities for alumni to step up like that is kind of our plan.
Similar to our last response and likewise of theirs, I think allocating that budget is very necessary for within student-led organizations. If they're no longer funded, how can we best support them? And that goes in the form of money as well as providing the necessary resources. As far as I'm aware, within SB 17, there's no harm in educating people, and so I think educating people on their options and allowing for those resources to be available. Again, going back to our utmost goals of making everything accessible as well as educating people of their options, and that would also go in the form of recognizing that those forms are for the support within our policies, and then those town halls could also be a means of advocating that support.
Well, I can say, like I've said earlier, that I've actually been to the Gender and Sexuality Center when it happened, where I actually decided to, put my foot in the door and hear what the other side has to say, where because of the law, we can only do so much, and we need to make sure we follow it to protect, everyone here at UT, especially those who work here. But as student government, possibly elected president and vice president, we can make sure that the organizations here stay protected and, you know, continue to thrive and do what they would like to do.
According to both an SG report and a National College Health Assessment, approximately 1/3 of UT students are experiencing food insecurity, significantly higher than multiple reported national averages. What will your alliance do to combat food insecurity on campus?
I mentioned this earlier, but about a week or two ago, I passed my first legislation in assembly, and it was over food insecurity. It was basically granting students who live off campus with free and reduced meal plans. So now part of that process is creating a proposal alongside the Food Insecurity Agency. So we're going to work on that like in the next couple of weeks. And then once that proposal is done and once we've brought that to housing and dining, a lot of what the president and vice president, whoever they're going to be, is going to be implementing that kind of program. So that's one of the main things. Yeah.
Often, food insecurity for college kids is under-recognized, under-examined, and under-addressed. But to combat this, we would make the UT outposts more informative so more people know about it. I was talking with Grace, and we didn't even know about it until the beginning of this year. So we feel like the information needs to be more publicized. We'd also make it more fun to erase the potential stigma associated with asking for help. I know for a lot of people, even myself, it's hard to ask for help. So simply to make a situation like that more fun, as well as bringing back the food distribution on Speedway that Leland and Isabel had. We feel like that was very accessible as well as very useful. There was a lot of student feedback of people who loved that.
Within this food distribution initiative, we would also recognize the establishment within the current executive alliance of the Food Insecurity Action Agency, building on that to kind of bridge the two executive alliances' missions in the past 2 years and kind of emphasizing both of their goals and uniting the two. We would also revitalize this initiative by having it more accessible, by being on Speedway and having a regular distribution schedule.
So I think part of being the head of student government entails is actually showing, or for me, residents as an RA, but also showing students at large what are the resources on campus. And you know, the previous Executive Alliance mentioned UT Outpost, which is a phenomenal resource, and they do a lot of great work. And I've always pushed my residents, you know, if you're dealing with food insecurity, heck, if you need, you know, a place for business attire, UT Outpost is there for you. And we think student government should be advocating different resources like that, should be pushing students to be utilizing these resources, as well as the Food Insecurity Agency and other initiatives under student government. There are plenty of things on campus that we should advocate for, and we should push students to in regards to this issue.
One big part of SG is working with administrators to make sure that your goals are feasible and best serve the student body, as well as to advocate for the student body's concerns. How will you approach this communication and role to best raise awareness of issues affecting our campus community?
I think in recognizing and building these policies, we came to recognize the concept of administrative pushback, especially as a public university, recognizing the relationship between the law and our university. And I think that this was a common concern between both of us in establishing the policies. And I think that we would just, as much as we can, reemphasize our platform within student government to be the student representations of those communication efforts, not striving to create any lack of communication between the two, and doing our best to, like we said, make sure that the policies that we have in line are feasible given the law.
When it comes to communication with administration versus communication with students. Again, one thing we've done is just thoroughly researched any administrative pushback that we could face. And so when it comes to Senate Bill 17, we want to make sure we're compliant. We want to make sure we get things done. When it comes to communication with the students and making sure we are transparent with everything we're doing, that's why we are creating, or we have created our Instagram campaigns where students can give us real-time feedback on everything we're doing. And again, that's why we're communicating actively with UT experts, whether it comes to food insecurity, we're communicating with UHD. When it comes to our other initiatives, we're making sure they're feasible and that we're in constant communication with both students and administrators.
And also, communication with administrators has not really been a problem. It's kind of the job for president and vice president. It's kind of built into the position. So our main problem would be communicating with students, which would be like, forums, Instagram, outreach, all that jazz.
So ultimately, as student leaders, we do need to work with the administration pretty closely to affect our aims. We need to make sure our things are real, practical, and feasible. Obviously we have some big ideas, but a lot of that will rely on administrators to basically inform us of how they believe the best way to implement some of these policies may be when it comes to really any of the executive alliances. So we believe having an open channel of communication with the administration on practically every single issue is extremely important. We will work with them to forward our aims.
I want to say my peers made a great point where, I honestly believe that we should make sure that, people know that resources here exist. And, one of the main ones that I can immediately think at the top of my head that many people don't know about is that, there are scholarships for pregnant women out there that people don't know about, where one of our local organizations, Horns for Life, has a scholarship that can help out, and also Texas Right for Life. But maybe another good job of us is just to make sure that people know these resources exist.
What is your opinion on the importance of having a zero tolerance policy regarding sexual misconduct in your administration?
We are in full agreement with it. When it comes to anything regards to sexual misconduct or just anything that violates such a human right, there should be zero tolerance, and I think that's that.
So up on our Instagram and on our website, we have what we call our statement of ethics. We have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to any sexual misconduct, any interpersonal violence. We also are saying that we don't believe discrimination or prejudice of any kind belongs in student government. We have a zero tolerance policy for all the things I just mentioned, and we will work with the proper authorities and the proper people involved to immediately remove a member who has been, discussed and we've figured out hasn't been engaging in sexual misconduct.
We think a zero tolerance policy for sexual misconduct is very important. With that being said, we also think a zero tolerance policy for hate speech as well as discrimination is also very important.
I think kind of summarize everything, absolutely not, basically. There would be no drawback in the sense of no hesitation in ensuring that zero policy and tolerance is not allowed. And that would be the utmost priority, is recognizing that anyone within any part of student government is not engaging in such acts, and if necessary, like they said, reaching authorities and combating those solutions in that aspect.
One of the main concerns affecting student populations today is the growing threat of climate change and a host of environmental threats to our planet. What is your Executive Alliance's opinion on student government's role in a growing environmental movement on campus? Is there a need to respond? And if so, what will your alliance do to create a more sustainable UT?
There most definitely is a need to respond to this. And in regards to what we specifically would do, one of our priorities is, again, making sure we represent the needs of all students. So one idea I had was we would obviously reach out to students, ask them what they'd like to be done on campus in regards to how we as student government can maybe create an agency or something else regarding climate change, and see what we can do to help the planet, because this is an issue that affects us all.
Some ideas I've had, not directly on the policy paper, just thoughts during assembly, like during discussion. Moving towards cleaner energy, because there's been a lot of discussion about how UT is funded by oil and how that's upsetting a lot of students. So maybe moving towards cleaner energy and cleaner ways of UT gaining profit, so they can support our students but not harm the environment while they're doing it.
I think with such a large school comes such a large amount of food waste, and so I think that recognizes the question of, yes, this would be a priority and it is a necessity. That goes with both trash and the food waste problem, and both our insecurity issues, and so we recognize, we actually were writing it down at the same time, we both put compost. I think that that is a huge priority, and I know that currently there are compost efforts, but I think that those have recently been taken aback. And I think also recognizing the value of recycling and utilizing those means. I know current recycling bins have been established, but I think growing that expansion of efforts, yeah.
Well, my major is geosystem engineering and hydrology. Big mouthful, basically just means I know how to find oil. But I don't know how to do it still, but I'm still trying to learn. But that's with the petroleum engineering building, and I've had a great opportunity to learn of how UT works, where if you ever go by the not William C. Powers, that's where we are, the GLT, behind there is actually a gas turbine that powers the school here, where we've done a good job at actually making UT independent and not having to rely on Austin power that sometimes can be a little bit iffy if you live just not on campus. And if we were to change that in any way, we would probably increase tuition cost. And our goal here is to actually help students and not hurt them and give them any unnecessary burden.
While a variety of initiatives and campaigns exist in student government to serve the student body, the reality is that much of the student body remains in the dark about the operations and goals of student government. How will you proactively tackle the pervasive problem of student indifference towards student government?
So this is one of the major problems that we're tackling with our campaign, specifically on unity, with several different things. The first is student government is amazing. However, it's a bubble because there's a self-selection. The people who are most interested in student government are going to be the ones who know about student government, whereas the rest of the student body may know nothing. And that is, again, why we have the importance of the Instagram campaign. We also have our weekly town halls. Something Jonathan and I have talked about quite often is going to building every week, going to the GDC, which is a place where student government maybe hasn't been very much, and different buildings on campus so that we can set up a booth, have people say, or just say, okay, like chat with us, we're your executive alliance, and then make sure people know through in-person and Instagram outreach that we exist so that we expand outreach. That's a huge priority for us.
Also, one very new thing in student government is the recruitment and retention agency. Or committee, so we would hope to expand that.
I feel like involvement is a big thing. I feel like often lots of people don't feel like they can get involved within student government if they aren't, for say, like a government major or involved with it from the beginning. With that being said, a lot of our different policies would ask for volunteers, which has lots of different ways for people to get involved just through volunteering for stuff that might be interesting to them.
Within getting more communities involved within this volunteering and the involvement, I think one example within our policies, within career development specifically, we recognize how people's passions change over time, and college is a time of exploration. So rather than sending people to like an email list of different things for career fairs and stuff that are specific per college. We would have an app that consolidates all of those resources. You might ask how this goes back to the involvement of things. We would reach out to different engineering and CS majors to help with the creation of that app, and then that would also get our foot in the door of having those communities and colleges involved rather than just government individuals.
Ultimately, I feel like there are really two issues when it comes to engagement with student government. Firstly, most students probably just frankly don't really care about a student government, don't really care that it's there, and don't really see a need for it. And secondly, another big issue with that is, what is student government actually doing, and is it actually best representing its students? You know, something that we focus on our campaign is, firstly, yes, there's going to be a lot of students who just won't really care about student government. And I think that is a fact we do have to acknowledge. You know, I believe last election only 8 or 9% of students voted in the Executive Alliance campaign. And I think that's something we should really take into account. But when it also comes to best representing students, I think it is very important that we as Executive Alliances acknowledge that we are here for all students and that we do need to advocate for all of them, regardless of any opinions or ideologies.
Now we'll move into the interactive portion of the debate, the audience Q&A. In-person audience members will have a maximum of 30 seconds to ask their questions and should begin by directing the question towards a specific alliance, all alliance, or any alliance that would wish to respond. No additional questions or follow-ups are allowed. The same rules from the general debate apply to executive alliances. You can line up if you'd like to ask a question.
Yeah, you gotta come to me, sorry. No, sorry, no. I gotta hold the mic.
Okay. So my question was, what have you done specifically to help UT as a whole, like benefit UT itself?
You want to direct that to a specific alliance or all alliances?
All of them.
Okay. Oh, well, as part of student government, I would say there's a time as a representative, which would be, you know, trying to pass legislation. So the Food Insecurity Act, or my food insecurity legislation, I've plugged it 1,000 times in this session. But and then also my time as in Hook the Vote, trying to encourage more student engagement and like civic engagement for students. That's how I think I've made it better during my time here.
Okay, sorry. As mentioned before, through my MPHC presidency, I've engaged with multiple administrators, such as Jay Hartzell and Dean Lilly, about possibilities of different things on campus and how to execute those, and even the possibility of executing such things, just to make it a better community for all on campus.
I think for myself, like previously mentioned, my work within mental health and my leadership within such communities and things has kind of allowed me to engage in leadership abilities, and kind of amidst the past 3 years, I've really strove to grow in outreach and bridging communities, and yeah, just within Plan 2 especially, I think I've kind of aimed to be a leader within that, and especially within Plan 2 pre-med. So.
Well, just to reiterate what I said before, I'm currently a resident assistant, so I've been advocating for my residents, and I've been working with University Housing and Dining for a while now. I've also been involved with some grassroots activism here at UT, you know, some voter drives, stuff like that. So, you know, I try to make UT a better place with all the orgs and all the things I'm involved with. And yeah, do you have anything to add there?
Well, regarding my own actual experiences, my specific title was the legislative director, and I had to just look at policies that actually helped our constituents in my district, and I had to just listen to what people had to say, from phone calls to emails to anything in any way that they wanted to talk to me, and just listen to what they had to say and make sure that maybe we could do something, or give them the right resources and direct them to the right state agency that can actually help them.
Oh, okay. And this is for everyone. What has been your experience with diverse student groups on campus, unlike yourselves? And what actions have you taken to show compassion and understanding to these groups?
That's a great question. And I think that what comes to mind immediately is just the amount of conversations I've had with so many of my friends who were immediately affected by the passage of SB 17. And I think that oftentimes when we use words like compassion, it sounds almost like a buzzword, but genuinely, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that we have listened to their stories, and one of the reasons like I am here right now running is partially because we care so much about restructuring after SB 17.
I would say just listening. So, for example, listening to the problems of students who previously came out of the Multicultural Engagement Center. For example, I believe the agency that's specifically Asian-based, they don't have a. Oh, sorry, I'm out of time.
Man, I'm sorry that I accidentally interrupted you a little bit. My bad. But no, I've done my best to actually go and walk out and see what people have to hear and say. Where I've already mentioned earlier about the different organizations that I've heard and met, and I've made many great friends with throughout all of them. And University Democrats, I've a few of the people there, they always advocated for making students just go out and vote, and that's a really good thing. And student government also continues to try to do that as well. And just listening to what people have to say and their views here kind of just shows the unique perspective and diversity UT here provides. And we need to make sure that everyone has a voice and they're able to express it and just find themselves here.
As stated before, as MPHC president, I'm head of a community to reach out to a brighter scope of the school. I was a campus lead for a day of service where I got to talk to more than just people of my same background and community that I often spend time with. So I got to hear about what their day-to-day life at UT looks like. What are their concerns on campus? Where do they spend most of their time and stuff like that? So I feel like that's very important to learn about more than just people of your community who you spend time with the most.
I think within my work and already within our collaborative efforts as an alliance, I think that we've shown how we're resourceful and that it requires reaching out to communities that are not just ourselves. And within those resources comes with having an open mind. And honestly, within building the cultivating equality thing, we gained so many testimonies that had opened my mind to so many different perspectives, and I can really thank Elle for that and her connections. And so I think that we've kind of continuously utilized our communities and connections in that positive way.
That's okay. Okay, hi. My question is for everyone. So over the past year, the student government leadership has been faced with so many external challenges that have had a significant impact on campus climate. In this debate, there's been a lot of talk about how you would approach DEI-related advocacy. So my question is instead about, in your term as an exec alliance, how would you approach supporting students affected by the ongoing violence and genocide in Palestine?
One problem that we've had in student government this year is that we've had students come in and talk about how they feel that some students' voices are unfairly being heard over other students' voices. We've had problems where people come in and accuse us of violating our own bylaws, and one thing that I would say is just make sure that we are, one, in accordance with those bylaws, and two, giving every student an equal voice. And that means having conversations before we make statements. For example, I think one of our problems that we faced were that that student government was making statements that were not previously voted on by legislature, which is required according to the student government bylaws. So I would make sure that we were following those rules and that all students' voices are heard, at least according to the correct processes. Yeah.
So one of our 4 platform points is, I did discuss it earlier, but I'll expand upon it a little more, is we want to have a task force for this issue in particular, because students all around campus of all backgrounds, this is really hitting home for them, because many students have families who live overseas in the areas that are affected. So what we want to do is we want to create a task force that will better advise student government on how to handle issues like this. And this particular task force will be about the current issue of the war that's going on in Israel. And we want to have students of all backgrounds. We want to have students who are Jewish. We want to have students who are Muslims, because we don't want to prioritize one voice over another. We want to have everyone in the conversation, and we want to have this committee or task force here to advise everybody on how not to basically shut anyone down or not promote one opinion over the other. We want to really make sure that all students feel heard on this issue.
I think we recognize that within being leaders of the entire student body, we are the voice of the entire student body, and that goes with showing support for everyone and not just one community over another or anything like that. And so I think within building our policies and having this open conversation between the two of us, we've recognized that it is necessary to support all communities and be representative of those, in the sense of there needs to be that transparency, and if one community in specific doesn't feel that they are being supported, that's the goal of that open form of communication that we touched on earlier with the town halls and the forums. And so we think that that would be greatly beneficial to both make us aware of people's concerns about not feeling support, and also educate us on how best we may support such issues.
The current Assembly and Exec Board has had a lot of difficulties in trying to navigate SB 17 and the effects it's had across campus, whether that's the closure of the MEC, the Monarch program, or the restructuring of the GSC. So as you guys as an Exec Alliance, are you willing to sort of push those boundaries and come up with these creative solutions to a problem that seems very difficult, even if it means voicing opinions that administrators may not want to hear?
Well, yes, we do want to come up with our own solutions. We have a couple of solutions outlined in our policy paper. For example, the closure of the MEC. One of our policies, we're creating recreating an institution that will replace it. But in addition to that, there are other people involved in this process. So, for example, there's legislation being passed in Assembly right now to give students a voice on what happens to the former MEC. And it's going to be made up, and if it's going to be made up of we're not sure exactly what, it's going to be a committee, and we're not actually sure exactly what it looks like. But one important thing that I think we have to keep in mind is that it's not just up to us, that we have to listen to student input. So yeah.
The answer is yes, absolutely. We're going to push boundaries to answer what you're saying.
Obviously, it's very, very important to find solutions to SB 17. We want all communities to feel like they have a space on campus when this is a space where we spend 5 days out of a week, multiple hours on. Speaking on things that administrators might not like is very important, because yes, we will get pushback from them, but we've already been creative in thinking outside of the box by talking with lawyers to figure out what possible solutions actually are. Yes, it will make administrators possibly upset or possibly feel some type of way about it, but there are things that are still allowed and can still be done with SB 17.
We said this earlier, we believe that the University of Texas does need to be in compliance of the law, whether that's SB 17 or really any other law for that matter. We do believe that student government, which does fall under the university umbrella, does also need to follow SB 17. And it is unfortunate for people who do want to push DI and DEI initiatives, but we don't believe that student government can really be the best vehicle for that anymore because of the new law, and because, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of it will come back on the university staff. And, they're the ones whose their jobs are at stake. So, as an RA, I can tell you, people have been taking a better safe than sorry approach when it comes to it. And I do agree that, we should push back on administration stuff when it comes to certain issues. But when it comes to this, I feel like the administration will be taking a very hard line when in compliance with the law.
Hi, this is a question for Austin and Andrew. How did you come up with your numbers expressed in your budget plan? For example, you proposed to remove $17,500 from the current appropriations budget, which serves to distribute funds to every registered student organization on campus. Why do you think that it is right for your campaign to prioritize a small fraction of a percentage of students through scholarships, as to oppose to a wider portion of the student body through appropriations to every student organization on campus, which makes up a quarter of our current budget?
When it comes to the current budget, we do believe that currently a small select few students are benefiting the most from this budget when it comes to the small exec board plus other officers who are receiving stipends, and that's a lot of money that does not go to students. The students will never see. That's about $40,000, 40% of the budget overall. So we believe that scholarships ultimately are the best way to put money back in the hands of students, and we want to prioritize that, and we want to maximize the amount of money. And in our overall plan, we still allocate $30,000 to student government, which is a huge amount of money. You know, we both have experience working in organizations that have a budget of $0. So we do think that student government will be able to maximize its return with a smaller budget, and we do think that we can maximize return for students by just putting that money directly back in the hands of students.
Where we believe that every student here deserves the chance to have success. And the best thing we can probably do is make sure that at least a few students here can have the ability to not have to carry the weight of financial burdens.
We can do one more.
Sorry. This is to everyone. This is just an opportunity to share the slightly more personal reasons behind your ambitions, along with your personality, and not just your promises and policies. Beyond your qualifications and the change you say you want to create for the student body through your policy platforms, why did you decide you want to run for UTSG's president and vice president when there are many other avenues for creating the change you want to see?
This is such a great question. I'm so glad you asked. The main reason and the trigger point for me was after hearing about SB 17 and hearing stories about how the university was honestly in some ways over-compliant for anti-DEI. I just felt like we needed to ensure that we brought the change we needed to see because with my personality, it's very obsessive / like if I think something is the right way to do, or something needs to be done for the sake of justice, I absolutely have to do it.
I've always been interested in government, so joining student government was a given. And I've been here for 2 years. I love the people. Student government it feels like home. So I think it should be in the right hands, and I think that is me and Ramya.
I think for me, something that has really was the ultimate push for this was the recent suicides on campus. One specifically within a community that I could say that I have met the student multiple times who recently passed away, and felt like I wasn't doing enough, and there was not enough mental health support on campus, as well as not enough recognition of such instances on campus, and I felt honestly like kind of at a loss of what is going on and why are these issues not acknowledged nor preventative. And I think that it is a big jump to just have something like that happen and say, I'm going to run for student government president, but I think that not only is this position the best platform for structural change, it's the only platform for a student to really engage on such issues and create the change that is necessary to ensure that no student is in the position to want to take their life.
So one of the big reasons we decided to run is we found that our student government, in our experience, it was very inaccessible. It was hard finding numbers when it came to different things. It was hard to figure out what initiatives they were actually proposing and actually pushing forth. So that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to actually get involved and shake things up a little bit, change the budget, change some structural things, and actually, make it more open, make it more accessible.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out to this debate tonight. We appreciate your engagement and participation and asking questions to each of the executive alliances. At this point, each executive alliance will have 2 minutes to provide a closing statement. We will go in opposite order, so it'll go from right to left.
Today, as we conclude our debate, we want to reiterate the essence of our campaign, a commitment to unity, inclusivity, and the well-being of every Longhorn. We believe in a campus where differences are not obstacles but strengths, where every student is not just academically successful but emotionally and mentally supported. In the spirit of collaboration, we have plans to work hand in hand with counseling services, advocate for increased resources, and strive towards destigmatizing to create an environment that recognizes and supports the holistic needs of every Longhorn.
We ask you to envision a transformed University of Texas at Austin campus, a place where every student feels not only academically fulfilled, but truly at home, unleashing the boundless potential within our collective community. A vote for unity is a vote for Grace and Elle, but more importantly, it is a vote for the future we all want to see at UT Austin. Together, let's make our university a beacon of inclusivity, a testament to the strength that comes from embracing our differences. Thank you for your consideration, and let us embark on this journey towards a more connected and united Longhorn family.
So ultimately, when we set out on this campaign, we faced many issues. And there are numerous issues that we see with student government today and things we want to work to improve. We think that the UT student government has a bloated budget, and we do want to see that budget actually put back in the hands of students, because we do believe that the student government has time and time again shown that it is really not capable of best representing students. We think that a $45,000 overall going to student officers, like I said before, 40% of its overall budget, we think that's too high. We think that is unacceptable. We believe that how much money the president of UTSG makes, when you take into consideration everything they make in terms of scholarships and allotments, they make more than our state representatives and state senators, the actual elected representatives. We think there should be some serious structural change to UT student government, and we think that we're the right team to effect that change. We want to see a freer and safer UT. We want free expression of religion to be better protected on this campus. And we just really want to remake the UT student government, remake what it's about, and rebuild those structures from within.
Yeah, we just want to make sure Austin gets to continue to stay weird.
I think we were very clear about why we want to run for, or why we want to be elected Vice President and President of Student Government. We want to help bridge the gaps that have been created by Senate Bill 17. We want to provide students with resources that they have not always had access to, and we'd like to bring people closer together as students, closer to student government. Yeah.
No student should ever have to worry about whether they get food on the table. No student should ever have to worry about whether they're included on campus. There's 3 clear reasons that you should be voting for the Nimbala-Wilson Alliance. First, we know what we need to do and how to get there. We have a very thorough, realistic, fleshed out plan. You can check out our policy papers. We've talked with past UT executive alliances, UT experts. We have set clear, realistic priorities and figured out what is our top priority, what is our least priority, so we know what to get done. The second is we are a perfect combination as a team. The perfect combination because Jonathan has extensive student government experience with my fresh perspective. We believe this makes us stand out. And the last is our joint leadership. We both are proven community leaders with the heart of public servants. We believe in UT and all that it can be. We're here to represent you with the motto, show, don't tell. We hope to have shown you today that we are here to solve real problems for real students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of the alliances who elected to participate, as well as to all representative candidates who spoke earlier this evening. We'd also like to thank all of our audience members and those watching live at home. This Friday, the Daily Texan editorial board will release our endorsement of an executive alliance, so be sure to grab a newspaper from the orange boxes around campus or find our endorsement online. Voting for students begins Monday, February 26th at 8 a.m. and closes Tuesday, February 27th at 5 p.m. Election results will be announced Monday, March 4th at 3 p.m. here in the WCP auditorium. Thank you all again and have a great night.
definitely should have ended with some sort of like